Rugby's greatest rivalry game number 3, folks, sees the All Blacks heading to Pretoria to take on the Bulls, obviously at altitude. Should be an interesting test for the All Blacks guys ahead of the actual first test against the Boks a week later. The squads have been named. Both sides have got new guys at 10. We'll get to that in a second. Plus, I am very much looking forward to the breakdown battle between these sides. But we'll go through the squads, some of the stats, predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this game may be going to go. The All Blacks, as I said, third game. They won the first two against the Stormers and the Sharks, two very different games. The All Blacks looked a bit disjointed and clunky against the Stormers, but still managed to get themselves a win. And then the stronger-looking All Blacks lineup played a weakened-looking Sharks lineup and absolutely put them to the sword in that second half. So hopefully this game's a bit more in the middle. The All Blacks could certainly use a tougher game ahead of the Boks than what they got from the Sharks. But they'll want to put in a better performance overall than what they did against the Stormers. So lots to look forward to. For the Bulls, this is a team which is pretty good. Looking at the roster, the bench is maybe looking a little bit light. The front row is looking very different from the team which went to the URC final. They finished second overall in the competition, losing finalists. But they're bolstered by the returns of some guys from other clubs who have signed in the off-season. So we'll see how they go. The front row, like I mentioned, much of the squad played in that URC final, but there's no Grobelaar, there's no Steenekamp, there's no Wessels, there's no Lowe. So the front row is the one area where I kind of wish they had a couple of those Springboks guys available for this game, because from an All Blacks perspective, I'd like to see them, put under a bit more pressure at scrum time. But who knows? Maybe these Bulls guys stand up. Francois Klopper is still there, and he started the URC final at tight head prop, so he's still there. Else is the hooker, and Chakwini is the loose head prop. So that's a bit different from what would be a kind of full strength Bulls front row. For Mark and Van Heerden in the second row, but the back row is looking really good. Marcel Coetzee has been an absolute Bulls stalwart for a number of years now. He is a former Springbok. He's always one of the top tacklers. He's great at getting over the ball as well. So at the breakdown, it's going to be exceptional, because you've also got Jandre Rudolph at number 8, who was one of the top turnover merchants in the entire URC season. And then you got Hunter Liebenberg, who's back from a long stint over with Leicester Tigers, back with the Bulls. So the back row is exceptional. Breakdown battle will be very important, because we saw what Dion Fourie was able to do to the All Blacks in that first game against the Stormers. The All Blacks did a bit better in that second game. So, yeah, the breakdown battle will be certainly a fascinating one. Embros Papier and Kerwin Bosch is a changed 9-10 combo, because Bosch is back in South Africa after a stint over in France. He used to play with the Sharks. So it's his first game. So it's a new 10 for the Bulls. Well, I think it's probably his first game with Embros Papier. So that combo may be lacking a little bit of cohesion. But Embros Papier was in an unbelievable form for the Bulls. He was their top try scorer of the URC season. He had a lot of little snipes, got himself back into the Springbok squad in July, played for the Boks, and first time in a very long layoff, he's been released from that wider Springbok squad to play in the URC. So, with the URC team. So, yeah, he's a man in good form. Kerwin Bosch, he's a good player. He's obviously a Springbok as well. Got 2 or 3 caps for the Boks. A bit of a revolving door on defense from what I remember of him. I haven't seen him play since he was playing in France, I will admit, because I don't watch Division 2 French rugby. But, yeah, a good playmaker. Bit of a revolving door on defense. Kind of got the Sam Prendergast thing going there. But one thing I will be looking to see the Bulls, I'm sure, employ a lot from him is that dude can kick the ball really, really high. He's got a big boot. He gets exceptional hang time, especially on his restarts. So look for the Bulls, I think, to take advantage of that and contest restarts vehemently and just pepper the All Blacks backfield with high balls from the boot of Kerwin Bosch. That loftus air at altitude with the boot of Kerwin Bosch could be a really interesting combination. So yeah, I'd still be, when Tava Nawai comes on, I'd be getting him to run down Bosch's channel all day long. He kind of played, I think, a bit of fullback over in France as well, where he's a little bit more protected from that front line. So he may defend at fullback, but either way, he's got a big boot. So look out for Kerwin Bosch. If you've watched Super Rugby years ago, you would have still seen Kerwin Bosch playing back then. Forster and Hans is a pretty good midfield. Both Not quite international players, but both very solid URC players. Abrahams has signed for Munster. He's a real live wire. Another kind of fairly diminutive but great footwork South African winger. You guys seem to breed them. Stravino Jacobs had a good season in the URC too. And then Willie Leroux, the veteran campaigner. So him and Koo and Bosch likely kind of swap places at times in terms of who's standing at first receiver. So they do kind of have a double playmakers thing going on with the veteran there at fullback. Like I said, the bench is looking a little bit light with, Skuman, Sitole, and Mukunu. Like some of these guys didn't play a heck of a lot during the URC season. Reinhard Lubik is there. Gumedi is there. He played a fair bit of rugby. He's a unit. Kunene is there at 23. So I'm looking forward to the breakdown. I'm looking forward to see how these new signings go. And I do think the All Blacks will benefit from having Koo and Bosch kick high balls at them all day long. We saw it in the URC final. They kicked a lot of high balls at Leinster in that final. So they've got that aspect in their game, but they can run it as well. So it should be a really interesting Bulls side. As I said, a bit light on the bench. Shame they're missing some front rowers, but by no means a bad team. By no means a bad team. For the All Blacks, they've made a heap of changes from the team which played against the Sharks. It's a whole new forward pack with Numia, Taylor, and Lomax coming in. It's the first matches for Taylor and Lomax, who've kind of had injuries keeping them out. I think Lomax is with a cut, he said, from his own boot in the Irish game, and Cody Taylor's had a bit of a niggling injury, which has kept him out. Xavier Numia, that'll be his first start, I think. So, whole new front row. But Lomax is generally regarded as our best scrummaging tight head prop. So he'll get a good go from the Bulls front row. Fabian Holland and Paddy Tuipulotu in the second row. Holland, as Dave Rennie mentioned, has not had a lot of rugby because he missed the entire Super Rugby season injured. Looked good when we saw him back in black, so fingers crossed he can keep some of that form going. Simon Parker, Anton Segner, and Peter Lakai in the back row. As I said, the back row will have their work cut out for them at the breakdown. But Lakai is a great turnover merchant. Segner is really high work rate. Simon Parker is going to do the kind of brutal mongrel stuff and potentially be the extra line-out option as well because he's a big guy. So, yeah, they'll need to be clearing out rucks quick, smart with the way the Bulls guys are able to get over the ball. We've got a new 10 as well, Josh Jacob. Richie Moore goes on the plane to South Africa, so his spot in the pecking order might go down a bit. His first call-up to the All Blacks, Josh Jacob, for this tour. Certainly his first time starting a match for the ABs. It's not a test, but yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one for him. He's helped by the fact that he's playing with Cortez Ratama, so it's a Chiefs combo at 9 and 10. So at least there's a bit of extra cohesion there. But I thought Jacob looked all right against the Stormers when he came on from the bench for Bodie. Admittedly, Bodie didn't have his finest outing in that one, so maybe it was not too hard to look better. But yeah, fingers crossed Josh has a good game. And then it's another Chief at the number 12 jersey. So you got 9, 10, and 12. It's all the Chiefs with ALB there at 12. And then Rico's moving to the midfield, I guess, with Billy Proctor being injured. Rico's potentially coming in to the midfield to cover that more than the wings. Leroy Carter and Josh Morby changed wings. Morby's great under the high ball, so hopefully they can get him in position to catch some of them from Koo and Bosch, because Bodie's at fullback and Bodie was not good under the high balls against the Stormers. But they clearly did a bit of work on it in the week, the few days between the Stormers and the Sharks game, because the All Blacks guys took a lot more high balls against the Sharks. So yeah, that's going to be a test for Bodie. But it's good to have a second playmaker there to help out, Josh Jacob. Take a little bit of the pressure off kind of having a veteran guy back there. They did talk about having Leroy Carter potentially as the number 9 cover because there's still no Roygaard, because they're worried about the minutes that Ratsama and Preston are getting into them, but they opted against it at the last minute. So it is still Ratsama and Preston as our 2 9s. They said Preston might come on a bit earlier because of Ratsama having to have so many minutes in him. Tokiaho, Bauer, and Lawaki, that's the front row replacement. So there's no Almoa for this one. He started last time. Josh Lord, who's been quietly pretty good, will come on in the second row. Wallace Satiti also had a good game against the Sharks. Kyle Preston, Tavatavanawe, and Narawa. It's a shame that Tavatavanawe and Narawa don't get to start, because I think those guys could use a little bit more game time as well. As I said, I would like to see Tavatavanawe running at Koo and Bosch all day long, because he was literally the top tackle buster in Super Rugby. And as I said, Koo and Bosch is not exactly known for his defence, but I'm sure he'll come on at some point and get a chance to do that. For the stats for the sides, it's hard to read too much into the Bull stats from the URC season, but like I said, they were definitely a good scrummaging team, but with different players than what are being fielded here in their front row. But that's definitely been a weapon of the Bulls in the season where they made the final. They've got a dangerous halfback in Papia, like I mentioned, a lot of snipes from him. They did have a bit of kind of hit and hope stuff in that USC final, which they lost, but they still can play. And when they look to shift the ball, they can be very, very dangerous. The All Blacks, obviously, better under the high balls against the Sharks. They'll need to keep that. They didn't concede any points. They got the scrum better. I think Norris and De Groot conceded penalties once apiece. But with Numia, Taylor, and Lomax there, they'll be looking to scrummage well. I'm sure it's been an absolute area of focus since that first week. How are the predictions looking? The bookies seem to have it, depending on which bookmaker you look at it, kind of high 20s or maybe 30 points as the All Blacks as the favourites, which seems like a lot. Like against the Stormers, the All Blacks were kind of high 20s or early 30s favourites against the Stormers, and that didn't eventuate. But then they obliterated the predictions against the Sharks. So 30 points. I think they'll be doing pretty well if they win by 30 points, because it ain't a bad Bulls team. It may be that the difference from the bench is where the scoreline blows out. Final 20. We'll see. Georgian Nika Amashukeli is the ref. He's a guy who's been fast-tracked through the refereeing ranks. Gets a lot of big games, old Nika, so we'll see how he goes. And then, Matt Carley and Carl Dixon are the ARs. So fingers crossed they all have good games. I love it when the officials have good games. The kickoff time is 7 o'clock over in Pretoria, so it's an evening kickoff, 5 a.m. for those of us here in NZ. Interestingly, the All Blacks guys are really avoiding talking about the altitude. But I, for one, think it'll be good for them to have played a week at Loftus before they play at Ellis Park, also at altitude a week later. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. Is 30 points too much for the All Blacks over the Bulls? You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.